Hello and welcome back to another episode of TNT with G. I hope you are doing well and that you are having a blessed week so far. I hope you had a great Easter. I think the last episode I did was before Easter, so I hope you've had a great one, and if you're on your Easter holidays, you are enjoying that. If you are new to this podcast, we just talk about life. We talk about things we've been through, things we're currently going through, all through the lens of Jesus. So if you are new, welcome. If you are an OG, thank you, I love you, thank you for staying with us. So I'm really excited because I am joined by a special guest for this episode.
Hello.
I'm joined with Amenie. Amenie, who are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a Georgia Charlton OG subscriber. Firstly, I've been here since dad doing my makeup days.
Oh wow,
so,
you are a proper OG.
I was like one of the first 20. That's my flex.
Do you know what you're gonna get? Yeah, you're gonna get a special something when we hit
a million. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I love it.
But who am I? I don't really know how to describe myself. Because I don't want to do it by where I go to uni, but I go to uni at the University of Cambridge.
How do we know each other?
So we grew up going to the same church.
Yeah.
Our families are like friends. And we've kind of always been quite close doing creative stuff. Our families in particular, like the oldest daughters going off and doing creative stuff. So we've kind of always kept in the loop of that. Mm-hmm. So we've grown up together, and now kind of everyone's becoming adults and going on their separate things. I'm off at uni now.
Yeah, and what uni? Come on, flex. It's a flex.
I hate to say Cambridge.
Cambridge! Whoa, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is an achievement, girl. You should be so proud. I know you are.
That's
proud,
a God achievement.
It's a God achievement. We love that. But yeah, you're at Cambridge. And so we just kind of wanted to talk a bit about likeAmenie's experience, what that's been like, and just kind of share her kind of like where she's come from, like before, just a bit before uni, and then to like now, and so. Okay, before uni, what did that look like, that year before going to uni?
The year before was a mess.
Oh, okay.
Before uni, so I grew up in a Christian house, big Christian family, going to church my whole life, so kind of always knew Jesus was a part of it. Mm-hmm. And then kind of I had strayed a bit when I was a teenager, as teenagers do. Kind of went through my rebellion phase. Yeah. And then had just kind of properly come back to God before I went to uni, and decided I wanted to, commit my life to Him and do that seriously. Amazing.
And so you've like decided, God, Jesus, I want to live for you, and then you go to uni.
Yep.
What was that like?
For me, it was really exciting, I think, because I'd been praying for Christian friends for ages, because at the church that we grew up in, there's not loads of young people. And still go to.
Well, our like site, because our church is like multi-site, so
there are lots of like kids now, which is really good, but there's like our age bracket.
Yeah.
Everyone just stopped having children for like a few years.
Yeah.
So I grew up like kind of the token Christian friend,
mm-hmm.
In my secular friend groups, but like I was so excited to go to uni and get Christian friends. That was harder than expected, but I guess that's what we talk about.
Yeah. And so I think like what is amazing, and I guess the difference between both of our like uni experiences is that for me, when I went to university, it was about doing everything that I hadn't done and being able to really push those boundaries and almost like create a new persona, because I was like, when you're at uni, like you have this whole freedom, like newfound freedom, and the ability to be able to create a completely different person. Like if you don't like the person that you are, like you can genuinely just change who you are, or like have different personalities, and it's not very healthy.
I considered going to uni with like a Welsh accent and just like convincing everybody I was like Welsh, and I was like, I don't know if I can keep that up.
Why can you do that? Oh, that would be so funny.
But I can't keep the lie up. I can't do it.
Yeah, but like oh, that's so good. But no, like for me, like I went and was like, I'm gonna push every boundary, and it was just exhausting and unhealthy, and I don't know why I did it. But I mean, I have a massive testimony and like can encourage people not to do that. And so like from Amenie's point of view, like she went with the mindset of actually no, like I want to go and be exactly who God's called me to be. And so what did that look like? I guess what was a challenge of that, because I think not everyone does that.
Yeah. I mean, part of it was really nice because I'd been umming and ahhing about God for like so long, and just finally being solid on it and being like, well, I have to make a decision. I have to be in one of the camps. And I was like, well, I believe in God and I believe God loves me. So therefore, what does my life look like? And I remember like going through the Gospels and reading them and being like, I'm just literally going to find everything Jesus says to do and do it. Like, I feel like that's what being a Christian is. So I would read the Gospels, and I was so determined that I was going to find a really good church to be a part of, good friends. I was going to be open from day one that I was a Christian, because if you're open from the first day, people get used to it, and they get used to the weird stuff you do. Like I do a lot of theatre and I'm a very busy bean, so I made sure that every whenever we're filling out when we're free, I don't do Sunday mornings. Sunday mornings are reserved for church, just kind of symbols to show people I'm taking it seriously, I think.
And I think that's really key, in the sense of like, I think sometimes as Christians we can have this thing in our head of like, oh, like, but people aren't going to be accepting and people are going to judge me and like being a Christian isn't cool. But actually, like, how do you know unless you like say? Like, how do you know like what people's stance is going to be? Like, we make up, I'm an overthinker. I will overthink everything, and I'll be like, oh my god, I'm planning an act. What? But actually, like, yeah, it might be scary the first time you say it, but eventually, like, people are like, oh yeah, like, that's cool, like, or that's great for you. Like, I feel like people are more accepting than we think.
Yeah,
but
we're very multicultural, at least here in the UK.
Yeah.
So people generally are more accepting, and I think, you know, we're told in the Bible that we will be like, it won't be an easy life and we will be persecuted.
Oh, yeah.
But we're very
Many
lucky
times.
we're very lucky here in the UK that like we don't get killed for being Christians, and actually we are free to be Christian. So it's a perfect place to be openly Christian, and so many more people are willing to hear about it. I remember, because obviously I grew up in church, I remember being so amazed one time that I was telling people, oh, you know, like I'm Jonah and the whale and stuff, and people had no idea, because people aren't growing up with like a Sunday school education. So actually there's so many things that we think are fundamentals in Christianity that like, oh, everyone knows, but actually people don't, and people are really interested to hear it.
Massively. I think that's so true. And I guess like we've spoken about like church and the fact that we grew up in a church, and I think we're very blessed to be in the church we're in, and then when you go somewhere else, that navigating and finding somewhere that feels like home is really difficult.
Because I didn't want to just find a carbon copy of the church I already go to. I wanted somewhere that's going to like speak to me, and somewhere where I'm going to be really looked after in a completely new city. But equally, I knew things I liked from my church at home that I was hoping to find. And I went to so many churches.
How was that experience, like just finding a church?
It was quite exciting, but it started to get a bit disheartening, because I would go to a new church like every week, and I was determined that by the end of my first term, so before Christmas, I would find a church to like belong to and be a part of, where I could really set roots and go, right, okay, this is where I'm meant to be, get started. And I went to so many churches, and actually, because I've always been, as long as I can remember in my life, I've been to the same church. So actually seeing loads of different churches was wild, and it gave me such a bigger perspective on actually wider Christianity, and not just the church I've been to.
And I think that is important, actually. Like, as much as we can go to the same church, it's really important to visit and like have times where we are seeing how different churches are, because like, you know, we're not called to be like you say, a carbon copy. We're not called to be the same. We're actually called to be different, and like we can actually learn things through going to different churches. So you found your church. What was that like?
Oh well, it was really great.
Are you still at the same?
I'm still at the same church. Love them. Shout out to City Church Cambridge.
Woo!
But I actually, God had started planting the seeds early, because I went to New Day in the summer before I went to uni, and I'd met some people who were doing a talk about going to university from City Church Cambridge. And they were running this talk, and I went to go meet some of them because I found out they were from Cambridge, just to like suss them out. I made a friend, and they were quite nice. And so when I ended up going there, there were people who already knew me. I went in and it was just such a nice atmosphere. Like it felt very family-y. And I think a lot of the time around unis you get like studenty churches, which was what I thought I wanted, because I wanted more Christian friends, but actually I needed somewhere separate from university that was full of like families and people who would stay rooted there, people who, you know, I could grow with there, who I knew would stick around. So yeah, there were loads of families. The first day they like all invited me to lunches. Yeah, they were amazing.
And like, how good is God? Like his timing, that you met someone at New Day, like for instance, because I remember like when we were at New Day and you're like, I want to go to like, I want to meet people that are from Cambridge, and then the fact that then someone did a talk from Cambridge that was then from your like,
yeah
he's so good.
And there were people at my home church I then found out who were connected to this church, so many people had like put a word in ahead and gone, oh, if Amenie comes, like look after her. And it was
I love
amazing
that.
Yeah, they were so welcoming, and they were so excited to have students, because after the pandemic, it's a bit further out from the city, so students had stopped coming basically. And I was their first student in a couple years, and they were all so excited.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so kind of going off from that, so first student, how was that then being, because you sometimes, so a lot of the times people will go to particular churches because there's a heavy student like, you know, group, there's a heavy student
That's where
intake.
I started.
Yeah, and so you'll want to be like, oh, okay, like I want other like Christian friends, I want other people to help support me. And obviously you've gone and you're like
opposite direction.
Yeah,
because I went to some studenty churches and they kind of weren't really what I wanted. I wanted like the stability of a church that the congregation is like there every week. And it was really difficult. I had a lot of conversations to God about it, because I was like, I love this church you've put me in, and it's almost perfect for me, but I still don't have any Christian student friends, and that is what I've been praying for years and years and years. And I was like, God, like you've given me such an amazing place, but where are the people? My age. So that was hard. And I guess like, how did you get through that? Well, I like a challenge.
Okay. Yes. Something about Amie, she loves a challenge. Like, this girl is the most outgoing, go-getter,
I like doing
driven,
stuff.
like person I know. She's incredible. But yeah, carry on.
Well, I was like, okay, there's no student work. I'm gonna make a student work. So I got invited to one of the elders meetings, and I sat down with them, and they were like, how can we get more students? And we basically brainstormed. I worked with a guy who had done a talk at New Day on how we were going to get students. We met up in coffee shops. We would like go through plans. There were some students who had come who were a bit older or who had grown up in the church, who were like coming back to like help out. And I just started inviting lots of friends. I had a lot of friends who... Cambridge is quite an interesting place religiously, because there's a lot of old churches. There are chapels everywhere, and being there has given me like such an appreciation for the like beautiful architecture of the chapels. But there's a lot of people who will go to chapel or go to church, but they don't really have a relationship with God at all, and they're seeking it, but they don't know where to find it. So I had a lot of friends who I would just start inviting people to church, people who I didn't even know were Christians. I'd be like, yeah, come with me to church, see what like my religion's about. And people started coming. I found out people were Christians who I never would have imagined, and soon we had like a little group of us regularly going. We'd all like meet outside my accommodation at like 10 o'clock and off we'd go, and it was really nice. And then we started working on some student stuff.
I absolutely love that. Like, I think no, but honestly, like, I think often, and in our culture, we moan. Like, we complain about things like, oh, well, there's not enough students, or, oh, like, I'm not this, and da-da-da-da-da. But then it's like, where's your heart, and what are you doing about it? Like, Amenie's gone, okay, there's no students at my church, but I love this church. What am I going to do about this, God? Well, I know that I can do all things through you. Let me start a student work. And then, like, now you've seen it grow, and, like, how much God has done in you through that. But you took that step, like...
Yeah. Well, God had to really, like, sort my heart out about that, because I was just moaning, basically. I would, like, lie on my floor and be like, God, I have no friends. And he would just be like, go make some. Go find some.
That father direct.
I like it when he speaks to me directly, because he's just like, girl, you know exactly what the answer to this is.
Like, you know what you have to do. Like, why are you still moaning?
And he was like, yeah, I will put the right people around. Turns out I was living, so there was a Christian living above me, a Christian living to the side of me, a Christian living next to me.
Wow.
So he literally had surrounded me with Christians, and I just hadn't seen them.
God is just...
He's so cool.
Oh, he is so cool, and he's so funny.
And there was one next door to me, in the room next to me. Like, you can't make this up.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, okay.
He was like, I've literally surrounded you with people.
I just need you to be the connecting point. Oh my gosh, he's so
because
good.
I'm good at talking at people a lot of the time, so I can like encourage people to come along.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been amazing. Like, it's just grown. The student work is now organised by the church, and it happens every week. We get students coming from both the universities in Cambridge, and friends who have been coming to church, or I've been bringing to church. 2 of them want to get baptised. 1 of them got baptised in the Holy Spirit for the first time this term. Like, it's so exciting what God's doing.
But just from a step of obedience.
Yeah.
Like, that's what... Sometimes it's like, it's so simple, and we overcomplicate it, and we just like, oh, but this, and God, I can't do it. And it's like, no, like, I just... Trust me. Like, we were literally talking about this. Just trust me, and have the faith, and take that step of obedience, and then I will do the rest. And it's like, just for... And it's not easy. Like, it's not always easy to do that. And, like, it's hard, and we have to be like, okay, God, like, oh, I'm going to surrender this to you, and give you control. But taking that step of obedience, and then, like, the fruit that's come from that.
And I think when I'm finding it hard, like, it's still hard to do this, but I think, do I trust God, or do I trust myself? And God's come through every single time, and I definitely have not. So if there's somebody that I'm going to trust with something like this, it's going to be God.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just,
well put.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Okay, so you're at uni, like, everything's going well, you found a church, then injury happened. What happened in first year?
It was literally, like, halfway through my first term, living in a different city, and I injured my knee. I think I pulled one of the tendons, and it got like a little tear in it, or it was all strained. It was horrible. My knees like swole up. I couldn't walk. I would just cry whenever I had to walk because it hurt so much. And it was really horrible because I'd never even been to hospital by myself before, and I suddenly had to, like, okay, get to Amenie, get all this, organise stuff with my professors. I didn't know if I would be able to walk for how long. Like, I went to Amenie, and the people looking at it were like, well, it might heal itself in 4 weeks, or you might need an operation in 6 months and still not be able to walk. And I was like, oh, it's so good when I've just gone to uni and I'm away from my family. It was very stressful.
Yeah. And so, okay, you've gone from, okay, first year, like, diving into everything, you found a church, all of that, like, and then you break your knee, essentially. What did God teach you in that time? How did you, like, what were your emotions?
Yeah.
What did God teach you? Yeah, like, what was that experience like?
Really amazed at how God used that, actually, because as soon as I got home, the first thing I felt like I should do was open my Bible. And I was like, oh, look at me, little Christian girl. I opened it up, and God immediately brought me to this verse, like, in my weakness, I am strong. And I would like think about that. I was like, well, it doesn't make sense. Why am I strong in my weakness? And God was like, you are weak to show my strength, to show how I can be strong and, like, help you and support you, and how I'm going to do great things. And I just had so much peace. Like, I would phone my parents and be like, oh, I'm never going to be able to walk again. And then afterwards, I would just, every single day, like every morning and evening, I would just pray and go, God, I'm really, really scared, but I trust you, and I give this to you. And he just filled me with so much peace over this week. All of my classes and things lined up, and I just had this really weird security in the back of my head that I'd never had when things had gone wrong before, that it was going to be okay. Like, God was going to sort it out. Like, even if I would never be able to walk again, God would sort it out. Like, there would be something. He would use it for something. So, it was just insane. Like, I'd never felt so much peace about something so stressful. The church were amazing as well. Like, people, I'd been going for like 2-3 weeks at this point, and people would like go and buy all my groceries. They were driving me to my appointments during their school run. Like, yeah, they were incredible. And they were really just looked after me, and I felt so taken care of when everything was quite confusing. And they were all praying with me. I'd get lifts to the worship meetings so people could pray for me and my knee. And then I went to the hospital again. I managed to get an appointment like 1-2 weeks later. And that was where they were going to find out exactly what was going on and how long they thought I was going to have to be on crutches and stuff for. And the guy looking at my knee said, "Oh, you could just give us the crutches in now. You can walk out." And I was like, "Huh?"
Oh my.
Like, "Are you sure?" And I actually said, "Oh no, I'll keep them for another week, thanks."
Just in case.
I've still got them somewhere. I'm very sorry, hospital. I need to give them back.
Wow.
But, yeah.
My dad, he had those for years ago, and
There you go. Actually,
Side
they
note.
got used by 2 other people in my accommodation that time.
so there
So,
you go.
You know, God used the crutches. No, but yeah, so he was like, "Okay, fine." So I took these crutches and I got in the car, and this lady from church picked me up, and she was like, "So, how was it?" And I was like, "Oh, Claire, I can walk."
I can walk.
I can walk. And it was amazing. And yeah, people had just been praying and praying, and yeah, God did it, and I didn't feel any pain in my knee within about a week.
God is like from 6 months to like,
Yeah.
wow, like, and
Ugh.
yeah, like that's an incredible testimony in like in itself, and just having your church support you in a time when you're like, "Oh, I've only been there," and I guess that was another confirmation of like, yeah, do you know what, God, I'm in the right place. This
God
is
really
where you're
used that
calling
time
me
to solidify for me that was the church for me.
Yeah.
And also to trust him. So like that was such a turning point week in my life, because after that I was like, I'm surrounded by an amazing church. I'm surrounded by an amazing God. Like, bring uni on.
Yeah, bring it on. We got this.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking about uni, and you're going into like your last semester
Yeah.
of year 2.
Yeah.
So you've nearly done half of your course. That's crazy. That's
I feel old.
insane. You feel old, Annie.
It's a hard
Yeah,
life.
I guess. How has Cambridge been? Because I think there is this whole like, I don't know what stigma.
Cambridge.
And yeah, exactly. Like, okay, you've got to work your butt off. Like, you know, you get in for a reason. Like,
There's a lot of pressure.
like with other students, even like
Yeah.
comparison. How has that been, and like dealing with that? And
Really difficult, and also really not difficult once I worked out and prayed about it. I
Okay.
think so. Like, it's so easy to compare yourself. Like, this is a super high pressure environment full of incredibly overachieving people, and even your hobbies aren't safe. Like, your hobbies are not safe. I would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go swimming," and there's like some Olympic swimmer who lives with me, who's also swimming, and it's like, you can't be average at anything, or it feels like you can't be just normal. You can't do anything just because you like it. And also,
You have to be the best.
Yeah, you have to be the best. Everyone's trying to be the best. And everyone will say like, "No, we all like are good at our own things," but that's just like, in Cambridge, nobody actually feels like that. Because we're all used to being the best. Like, in school, you're always the A-star student. You're a lot of us. There's a lot of oldest siblings as well in Cambridge, because you always feel like you've got something to prove. So at first that was really tough, going from this place where I'd been, you know, really a good student, good at my hobbies, and in this place where I was really not the best. I was average, if not like mid-bottom of the pack, which is like, you know, that's how I viewed it then.
Yeah, that's how
Okay.
you're viewing it. That's not how everyone else, and most importantly, God views it.
Very true, very true. But like, I study languages, and I would be in these Spanish classes, and I had like never been to Spain, and I didn't have any people in my family who speak another language. My whole class was like bilingual people who have like South American parents, people who did gap years in Mexico, And I'm just there like,
Wow.
I'm being compared to all of you and I feel awful. Because it is tough, especially like these kind of degrees. And
what
so
they say, like, comparison is the stealer of joy?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Comparison's the thief of joy.
Thief. There you
Thief. Same thing. So comparison was wild for ages and ages and ages. And the thing was, I would pray about it and talk to God about it, but it really didn't feel like it was budging for a long time. But then I put more into church and in my faith life, and God started opening doors in other things to me. So I've like hobbies that I really, really love, like being creative. It's so easy to compare yourself in things like theatre and music and stuff, because there are always amazing people doing that as well. But over time, you start, the good thing about uni is you can become your own person, because there's a bigger pool of people and you're not just in school. You're kind of not all measured against each other, really. You might feel like you are, but actually, for me, God was blossoming me into my own person with my own talents, my own skill set. And actually, when I was praying and asking him about it, and through reading my Bible a lot, I would like wake up and I'd make God part of my daily routine to remind myself who he says I am. And then he'd open doors to things that were just so suited to me that it kind of got to a point. I still struggle with comparison sometimes.
Of course. I think we all
it's a very human thing.
Yeah.
It's also a very female thing.
Yes, and we live in the world, don't we? We live in a fallen world, so
But he's human. Yeah, he's helped me get to a point where I'm like, the race he's set for me is my race.
Yes.
Like,
Amen.
if I am an ice skater, I'm not going to compare myself to a sprinter. Like, why would I want anyone else's path when I have this incredible path God has planned out for me? And that's what he's shown me over so long. It's like, I have incredible plans laid out for you. Like Esther, my verse for going to uni was, he's chosen you for a time such as this. And so God has a plan for me. And actually, it's difficult, but why would I want anybody else's path when there is one already laid out for me that is perfectly tailored to me and to everything God has planned for me, which is more than I could ever ask or imagine.
Amen. I love that. That is just creme de la creme. Like, why do we continually compare ourselves with what this person has, with what that person has, with what that person's doing, when God has already laid your path that is perfect for you, that is designed for you? Like, he literally like
I don't know about you, but I would want the person who knows me more, like, better than anybody else to design my path, like,
because he knows me better than I know myself. So things that I don't even know that I'm gonna love, he knows I'm gonna love.
There's so many things I think I want that I find out I don't. Well, God already knows exactly. So I'm doing my best to trust him with that path. Yeah,
and why go onto a different path that we think we know best, that and ultimately ends up back on the path that God already had? We just have to take that, detour, like the whole wilderness, like, it's just so much longer, when actually, like, the path that God has designed for us, like, will be like, if we just follow that path, by the time we get back on that, we'd be way ahead of where we were.
And when I trust him, he reveals new steps of that path to me every single time. And when I'm trying to do things in my own strength, he'll hold it. He'll go, wait, trust me. And as soon as I do, he opens the door. Like, things like, I've written a play, and I was trying to do everything all by myself, and I wasn't getting it anywhere. When I stepped back and went, like, God, I trust you with this. Like, it's going to get put on next term, which is so exciting.
I'm actually really excited for that. Like, you are doing some incredible things, and you can just see God's glory just shining. And
I just don't, an important part about being a Christian at university and in a secular creative environment is not compromising
that's massive
of my Christian values for it. Like, I write a lot of comedy, but it's even things like, not including a lot of swearing or all of this kind of thing. I really want to carve out a space where I can do exactly what God is calling me to do without compromising my faith, and he's doing that, and it's really exciting.
That is really exciting, and God blesses those who are, obedient to him and his will and what he says, and like, you can just see that. And so I guess like the flip side of that, in terms of like working hard and, you know, all of these things that God is doing and going on, and all these things that exciting things, like, and I know like for in uni, like you're kind of on a go, like you're like a Duracell bunny, oh, what next, like, but actually it's important to rest. And so how do you rest at uni? Like, how do you have that time? Because, you know, as much as like we're doing things, and like what you said, like God's opened all these doors, but you want to come from a place of like overflowing and not like empty. So how do you fill your cup back up?
I'm still really bad at this. And all my friends will know this, and they'll be laughing at me, but I find it so hard to rest, because I love being busy. I will go and go and go and go until I can't go anymore. Which is
so there's nothing left.
Literally till there's nothing left in the tank and I've got the flu. Burnout is wild. But God's teaching me the importance of rest, and actually a big part of me was this year at uni, I take Sundays off. I'm trying to practice Sabbath, basically. So I'll go to church, I give the day to God. I try not to spend loads of time on social media. I will meet up with friends. I might book out a music room and play some like worship music. Read a God book. Like, I try to have a God book. I try to have a day of rest, and sometimes that includes creativity. Sometimes it just includes eating food and going for naps. But I think practicing Sabbath is something that I'm definitely trying to bring back into my routine, and whenever I do it, my cup is so full for the rest of the week.
Oh, I can vouch for that as well. Like, I'm also terrible at resting. I think even just our culture,
we live in such a productivity culture.
Yeah, and like even when you go to another country, like everything is much more slower pace, and like even the fact, like, you know, like a siesta is incorporated in like the day, and like restaurants open later, because it's just such a much slower pace of life. And I don't know, I guess almost like living for those moments. And I feel like everything is so fast paced, even to the point like people will work through their lunch break, and I'm like, where's the time to like switch
I think that's why anxiety is so high as well, because people feel like life is running away. You know, and it's like they need to get everything done.
And it is that balance of like, no, we work to live. Like, we need to live, like, and be intentional with everything that we're doing. Like, be intentional with our relationships, be intentional with God, and it, like, even now to this day, I have not got the Sabbath nailed. I will.
No, neither.
I'm trying. Like, I'm trying.
Holidays are good for that.
But it's a balance, and I think like I think it's just being aware like of rest, and like how important it is, and how many times like God says in the Bible to rest. I mean, it takes time, like mastering and getting it right. Like, I know someone, like, shout out to Jamie Denyer, who has mastered the Sabbath, and he's always on at me like, oh, are you resting, and it's having those people in your life that can hold you accountable to be like, hey, I think you need to rest now. I think you're getting to a place of like burnout, and I think it'd be really good for you to take some days off. Like, those people are so valuable. Like,
it's just all my friends.
But that's the thing, we need them to be like, hey, hang on a second, like, you can't provide like quality things, like, you know, like I can't be doing TNT like every day if I'm not then reading my Bible, if I'm not resting in God. Like, it's not gonna be. So,
and Jesus did it as well. Like, rest really helps strengthen you for those battles. You know, like, he had 40 days in the wilderness before starting his ministry, and then he went to the quiet place and he prayed every morning when he was doing his ministry. And then before he was arrested in his crucifixion, he went to Gethsemane and he prayed and spent quality quiet time with God. Like, it's an essential weapon in our roster. I don't want to say weapon, a tool. Like, rest is such a tool, and it is useful because it strengthens us, and it keeps that bond with God close. Like, you can't keep a relationship up if you're not talking to the other person.
Exactly. And I think rest looks different for other people. I'm not saying like you just have to sleep. Like, no, like
just
actually doing something that fills you up. Like, for me, I love baking. I love being creative,
painting.
like doing something that you're actually able to just switch off your mind and just be, and like be really content in that space and not be like, oh, I'm doing this because I have to work. Like, no, doing something because you enjoy doing it and you love it. And like, I know like we love doing work as well, like, but it's also like there's a line.
And I think common things that really help people rest and connect with God are like creativity and nature.
Yeah.
Because God is the great artist. Nature is his great artwork. Like spending time, like he enjoys art and creativity and the little details, and when you go out and spend time noticing those and being in awe of it, it fills your cup up.
Yeah, no, definitely. Wow, I feel like we're rounding off nicely. I've enjoyed this conversation so much.
Yeah, me too.
I guess like the last thing I would say is, what is some advice, because I always love like asking someone the advice of like, you know, like kind of what you've been through and what you'd give someone else. So what is the advice I guess you'd give someone who is preparing, maybe thinking about going to university, and they are a Christian or you know, discovering their faith, and I guess like what is my question? My question is, what advice would you give to them who is I guess making that decision, and I guess maybe they've got into uni and it's like, who do I want to be kind of thing. That's like one question. And then the other question is like, with comparison. And I think when you are doing A levels or like applying to university, there is this thing of like, there is so much pressure around personal statement and what university are you going to, and like what offer have you been given, and then like when you are at uni, and like you said, like that comparison of, like I'm in a completely new place now, and like I'm comparing myself with all these new people that I don't know, and like they're better than me, and da-da-da, and like that's a really long question, but
okay,
I can break it down.
Right, so the first one is people going to uni. Okay. Like as a Christian going to uni, find a church as soon as possible, because the people who don't find a church often end up floating the whole rest of the time, and they can feel really disconnected from God and from a strong base of people to go to when they need support or they need to talk to God about something. A church is great because it gives you a community outside of the university, and a bit of a different perspective. They're very grounding. They give you some normal life, but also, you know, God life. And they're just so kind and wonderful and lovely. Find a church, and there's not going to be a perfect church as well. I think is really important to point out. Like, go visit lots of churches, pray about it, ask God about it, find one and stick with it, because as you get to know the people and you get involved in church life, like, you'll really grow to love it.
Yeah, that's so good. I think that was definitely key thing that I did not do, was finding a church that just getting stuck in and being like, I'm going to commit to this. Like, so important. Because
my first year was like, as soon as I found a church, it was like, okay, student work. And now this year, because the student work is still going, I can get involved in the worship team, and I'm meeting more people and becoming like integrated into the church family. And that's been so important for me, feeling very grounded in this weirdly intense university.
And just discovering more about you and who you are and who God calls you to be. Okay, and then the next question was like, okay, you're either like in the process of going to uni, or you're going to uni, and like how to deal with comparison. I know you talked about it a little bit. Well, we talked about it a lot actually, and like how to deal with that. But I guess practical advice of like the start and like going to uni, or like, because as well, like I think people forget like uni isn't for everyone, and like if say you don't get into that uni, like don't compare yourself. Like God has a path for you, and so like I guess.
My biggest piece of advice, and I'm still trying to follow this now, like it's a hard thing to do, but it's such a good thing to do, is carve out God's time every single day. Like really before you go to uni or wherever you're going, make that part of your routine. I cannot stress how much that's done for me. Like for some people that means sitting down and like reading their Bible, and I'm in an academic like I love going into all like the history and the culture and like looking into all these notes and reading all these commentaries. But for some people that is going on a prayer walk, like going for a walk, even if you're like, oh, I'm really busy, literally set a timer for a certain amount of time, go out and don't listen to music, just like talk to God the whole time. We live in such a world of distractions, like social media, or even like we try to keep ourselves in our little bubbles. And like I love music, don't get me wrong, but often I find I'm using it so I don't listen to my own thoughts. So also I'm not in my head. And actually it's taking that time to be really honest with God. Don't be afraid of being honest. Like he already knows what's in your heart. He wants you to be honest and speak it out to him. There's no judgment. There's just so much love that he wants to give you, but he's a gentleman, right? He knocks, you have to open the door.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that's the thing, is like God does know our heart, but it's like, I guess, taking the thing of like our parents, and like our parents know when we're like feeling low or feeling not ourselves, because they know us. They can read from our facial expressions, but they don't, but until we voice it to them, they don't fully like, I mean, I know God understands, but like it's that trust.
It's
of
for
being
us
like,
as well. I think when you voice exactly how you're feeling, first off, like you feel a bit better because you have some more clarity on how you're feeling, and it's not just this weird muddy murky feeling. But also getting everything honest and in the open gives God the space to go, thank you for telling me, here's what we're going to do.
It's keeping it in the light. That's the thing, isn't it? It's like anything in the darkness, that's what the devil can like use to like manipulate. But when we bring it into the light, we're like, well, God knows. God already knows anyway, but I've trusted him and he knows, and he's going to deal with it. And like, do you know what, devil, like you know,
and the devil deals in lies. So by speaking truth, even if it is the ugly truth, you're combating that in like instantly.
Boom. I love it. Mic drop.
Mic dropped.
Oh my gosh, like we could literally chat for hours. Like I was like, oh, I just want to keep talking, talking. But I'm like, aware that we actually also have life to be living
as well.
But honestly, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's been so good, and this definitely won't be the last time. As I always say, I'm like, oh, yes, I want to get you on again.
This
like,
is such a fangirl moment. I've been watching this channel for so long.
Stop. But yeah, I really appreciate it, and just such good godly advice. I've learned so much in this conversation alone, so I just pray that it blesses you who's listening. And Amie has so much going on. I will leave all of her like info in the description, because she's doing mad stuff out here. She's so creative and just so gifted, and going to is it Cambridge Fringe?
Oh, going to Camden Fringe.
Camden Fringe.
Very exciting.
So I will like link all information so you can like follow Amie and just be up to date with everything that she's doing, because keep supporting. There's a lot going on, which is exciting, but God is really using her. And so I just pray you guys will have a blessed week. Thank you so much for just the support and this community that is being built. And I will be back with another episode very soon. Bye.